Hello, my name is Mike Kurek. We're located at my farm here at Susquehanna Orchards in Delta, Pennsylvania, in southeastern York County. I can trace my family heritage back 9 generations here on this property. I'm in the 5th generation having it here in Orchard. We currently have about 75 acres of peaches, 50 acres of apples. We have some acres of pumpkins and also farm about 250 to 300 acres of row crops every year. In the early 70s, my grandmother and my grandfather renovated this barn that we're standing in now, and they started selling some of their second peaches here. Well, as the area built up, more and more people started coming. We started specializing in selling the public our better fruit, and now we pretty much sell everything from tomatoes to corn, jams, jellies. At a young age, walking the orchards with my grandparents, my parents, they were very conscientious in the conservation practices they used. They took a lot of time, make sure the orchards were planted on a contour, made sure there was swales in the fields to contain the water and not let erosion. I first heard of the 4Rs when I was doing research on how to increase my yield on my farm. And every time I did my research, I kept finding that it was very important to have the right source of fertilizer, the right rate. It falls right in line with the 4Rs. High yield and conservation can go together and both work together. This orchard's about 10 years old now. We implement a lot of 4R practices in this. This peach orchard was planted no-till. The tree probably gets 50% of its nutrient needs in the spring at bloom time with the dry fertilizer underneath the tree. When you do the dry fertilizer, you do 100% at a time. It's out there and it's in the elements, and it can be broken down. You can lose some of it. But with the foliar application, we can keep spoon feeding that crop as it needs. Funny story is, so down below here in this valley, there's an old logging road, and it goes down to 2 cabins on a river. And we go down there and walk a lot of times. Well, just to show how much water can move stuff, if you go down there, there's a little beach, there's peach pits down there. So they're washing down this hill, washing into the streams and getting down there to the river. So the fertilizer stuff we can't see, but in a peach pit you can see that's a lot of ground to travel all the way down to that river. One of the main reasons we got into the 4R and the conservation end of things is the river behind me. There's no bigger thrill than reeling in a 40-inch rockfish out of the Chesapeake Bay. And I want that to continue. I want my kids to be able to go out there and experience that. And we will do anything here at this farm to make sure we are protecting that water source.
Every one of Mike's fields, there's variability within them that we're able to help manage, use the technology to help implement 4R practices. It's not only talking about putting the right amount of fertilizer out there, we're putting it out at the right rate, using the right product, and at the right time to ensure that we're keeping it on the field to be used for that crop for that year.
The Nature Conservancy and the 4R Alliance wanted to put together a nomination for a 4R advocate through the Fertilizer Institute's program that they do on an annual basis. And we decided to nominate Mike Kurek in 2019. They select 5 farmers every year and 5 agribusiness partners along with those farmers. And we were so excited when he was selected because he is the first Pennsylvania farmer to be selected as a 4R advocate.
I mean, I was excited about the opportunity to go down to San Antonio and be around other growers. I think Tim and I were walking the halls with some of the more productive growers in the country. It's finally a chance where at least I as a grower can talk to other farmers, just say, see, this got me somewhere, this did something for me, and hopefully I can help other growers learn and become successful as well. The ground we're standing on now had peaches on it for the last 20 years. This is the 2nd year we put it in corn. With the yield data that we've had and being able to look at our soil maps, I was able to kind of get a good idea where my more fertile soil was, and I was able to up the population to hope to increase yields. Where some of my lighter soils are that's not productive, I did back my population down, but where I thought the corn should grow pretty good, we upped the population a good bit to try to increase yields this year.
But it's all about managing how that land, how that area, that field is going to respond to each of your different management practices. So it's all about that nutrient allocation and understanding what will that corn plant be able to produce, what it will be able to hold. Do you anticipate this field being in corn or soybeans for the next couple of years, or do you plan on getting some fruit trees back in?
We'll probably rotate fruit trees back in the next 3 or 4 years, but I found it's very important to any roots that we didn't get out with the bulldozer from the peach trees, we need them to break down and decompose before we introduce a young peach tree back in here again. Corn's a great rotational crop in an orchard, and we can still make some decent money off this ground growing the corn here. We're 100% no-till. I do not own a disc. I do not own a plow. I think there may be an old 2-row plow growing up in the weeds. There's probably trees growing through it at this point in time, but we don't use those things here. A lot of times after we have a heavy rain, I pack my kids in the truck and we'll take a ride around. We look at the streams to see what's going on. This here is a field that I did not have any cover crops. It's just mowed corn fodder. We had a heavy rain, I'm not sure how much, and snow melt. Here's a little ditch that wasn't here last year. You can tell the water is dirty. There's definitely some sediment moving. This here's a field in 2015 that had barley and then had double crop soybeans. And I had the mill come in and spread cereal rye over top the soybeans. This area here, I've had some erosion problems the past couple years and wanted to see what it looked like after all that rain. There is a decent bit of water still moving down here. It's about an hour after it stopped raining. But you can see the water is very, very, very clean. Way cleaner than just my corn fodder stubble laying on top of the field. We've used a lot of cover crops to try to protect the ground. We try to get them in right after harvest, so there's always a living root in that soil.
So Mike, this field was full season soybeans this year, just harvested 10 days ago?
Correct.
And field average was 69, 70 bushel?
Correct. We came back the day after we harvested the soybeans and went ahead and drilled the wheat in.
We're less than a week out from planting, and you already got wheat sprigs coming out of the ground, which is a good sign. Get them up early, get those tillers out. Fall tillers are crucial to yield. But then definitely step number 2 would be getting a soil sample. So we know once we can come back in springtime, once the ground thaws out a little bit, we'll know exactly what fertilizer we need to put on to grow this wheat crop, and then also a potential double crop soybeans as well.
Can we grab a few probes then?
You might as well, I got the bucket. I'd say 12 to 15 cores per field is probably very traditional for our area. And since partnering up, we've kind of transitioned to a more precision sampling program. So for each field, we've had a soil sensor run across it to help kind of redefine, remap our soil types, our variability, trying to define different areas of the field which may be more similar or maybe more different. And then we're also taking some yield data and stacking that on top of it, trying to help figure out productivity zones. So that's how we've kind of moved from this whole field, which is a 26, 28 acre field, and we've kind of sectioned it down. This one specifically has 4 different zones in it.
During the last couple winters, Tim and I spent the time trying to figure out what the best economical way to spread fertilizer has been. I think the last 2 or 3 years, I saved roughly 25% of my fertilizer bill doing variable rate P&K applications in all my fields. That's even with the application fee charged by the mill. Blocky ears is my favorite term in the seed book.
Blocky ears.
Yeah.
The one you want.
It's 18 round.
I just counted 32 there.
So in this map is showing his soil sample information for this field. The whole colored area is the field boundary. So we're not just pulling 1 sample per field, but we're actually pulling 3 different soil samples in this particular field. The zones that are created are based on 2 different metrics. The first one being soil EC. Soil EC is the measure of the soil's ability to transmit electricity, and that can help define variability within fields depending on soil texture or water holding capacity, among other properties. The second way we've done this and how we've kind of divided up these zones is based off of historical yield. So we take multiple years of yield history, 3 years minimum, and we can aggregate into high, average, and low producing areas of the field.
So that's the white buggy is scale. We get it certified by the state once a year.
Okay.
So then that is Because in the combine, it's all computer, but you still need to tweak it.
Yeah.
We recommend once for corn, once for beans, the weigh wagon. But again, that's all part of that calibration, because bad data is bad data. He's making sure that data is good.
So I see the future of farming. Data is going to be a huge part of farming. Doing the right thing to the ground is going to be a huge part. I was lucky enough that the generations before me were very conscientious to the conservation practices they implemented. I hope that in the future my kids will take over and continue farming and continue the practices that we are and adapt and change to their new agriculture environment that they'll be in.